Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. But for a radio audience here in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all could be with us. Also tuning in to our friends at iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Blog Talk Radio. We're glad you all could be with us as well. For our audience joining us in Mississippi, you guys know our artist of the week this week has been Stephen Voyce. I have the pleasure of welcoming him back to Conversations Live today to talk to him about the year that's been 2022, and he's ending this year with new music. The song you guys have been hearing has been The Motion. You guys will actually be hearing it again on our broadcast. For those joining us on iHeartRadio and Amazon Music, of course, you guys will have to look to your platforms to be able to hear the song. We'll talk to Stephen not only about the writing of the song, but also what it was like for him to collab with some great artists as well. If you guys are not following Stephen, we'll let you know where to find him too. But Steve, welcome back to the program, man.
Thank you for having me back, man. I'm excited to be back here another year, another fun conversation.
Well, look, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's hard to believe. I was prepping for this segment with you, Stephen. It was December of 2021. We had you on with Not Your Type. I had gotten, I think the way I found out about that particular song at that time, I think it was an email I had gotten about it. And, of course, now, you and I connected after that, so I stayed connected with you on social. And then, of course, I saw about the new single, so I'm like, okay, let me go over to Amazon and get it, and love that single. We're going to be letting our radio audience hear that here in a bit. So let's talk about the year, Stephen. What has it been like for you? Because this isn't the only music you've put out this year, I should say. But what has it been like for you to kind of reflect on this year and your continued growth?
Honestly, it's been one wild year because, like 2021, we started to, see ourselves come out of the pandemic more. And then this year, we see ourselves getting more and more out of it. And so creatively, it's been more open. And I've just seen myself exploring more opportunities or even having more opportunities come my way. Prior to this year, as an artist, I've mostly, made my own music. I produced for other artists, but that's kind of where it ended, with music. But this year, I found myself not just producing other artists, but also writing for them. So I've written for some really great artists this year, and it's been an interesting journey to dive into that side of my creativity, of collaborating with others and helping them, bring out their vision of what they're trying to say in their music and getting into their minds and helping them, focus that. So it's been fun, and I'm honestly just been grateful for the journey so far.
Yeah. And what I love about it, Stephen, especially in following you on social, is that you're one of these artists that even though you are so good at what you do, you don't seem to take yourself too seriously. I mean, you're able to do this really playful skits on social. I think, for all of us creatives that have that voice in our heads, we're literally able to see two or three of you at one time sometimes in some of these skits. So what has that been like for you to kind of expand even outside of music and entertain audiences that way?
Yeah, acting has been something I've been pursuing for some time now, but I've just been having more and more fun with it. And like you said, I don't try to take everything so seriously in life. But life is serious enough as it is, and I've been through enough in my life to understand that you need to also allow yourself to have some levity. And sometimes that means poking fun at yourself And I've turned to those little skits like Me, Myself, and Steve, which is one of them, where I played three different characters. One of them being this version of Steven, and then there's two other versions of Steven that play different roles. One of them is more arrogant, and the other one is more of the voice of reason. And it's just, in a way, it's a way for me to voice my thoughts and to deal with some of the internal monologues I have, but at the same time share them with the world and hopefully pass on a message that's inspirational, but at the same time surrounded by humor to make it more digestible. So really, in one way, I'm helping, I'm boosting my creativity by doing what I'm doing, but at the same time, I'm also self-therapizing and letting the world witness it.
Got you. So let's talk about voice for a moment, Stephen. We had a great time talking about that with Not Your Type, and I love the fact when you were kind of breaking down what kind of inspired that song. I think a lot of this has to do with being comfortable enough with your gift, which not all creatives, I have struggled with that myself at times. I think a lot of creatives, they know that they have something, that they were meant to do something or feel like they were meant to do something, but it's the struggle of doing it, sharing it, and being comfortable with it. What has that journey been like for you to realize the gifts that you have and then to be able to share those gifts?
I think for me, what really drove my career, at least in its professional infancy, was it was loss, right? I needed music as a way to cope with loss, and so at that point, I wasn't even thinking about whether or not I had a talent or skill. It really was, I need to let these things out of me. These feelings have to come out of me right now. If not, I feel like I'm going to erupt. So it was born out of necessity, and because I wasn't thinking about whether or not it was perfect or whatever the case is, I really allowed myself to just dive into what needed to be explored. And in doing so, I naturally started to grow as an artist. And then you see people receive what you're putting out, and they're telling you, hey, your music is also helping me deal with my internal struggle, so thank you. And that makes you realize how powerful this gift that I have, or that we as artists have, this ability to share our emotions is. And when you start seeing it as that gift, you kind of stop worrying so much about everything needs to be absolutely perfect. Now, I'm not saying that I don't nitpick I nitpick everything, but I also realize that everything has to be allowed to be released. If you hold on to things, then they'll never come out. So at some point, I just say, this is as far as I'm willing to take this song. I'm going to let it see the world, and so I can move on to the next one.
Got it. Now, one thing you've been able to do, Stephen, from the first time we met, you had collabed with a very talented artist with Not Your Type. You've done it again now with The Motion, and even though we have not been mentioning the names, with the new segment, it's Lucky De Niro and She Is Sam. What has that been like for you to surround yourself with other artists that get it? What has that been like for you to have that kind of support system?
It's beautiful, to be honest. It's when you're creating with artists, then they understand your mind, and they allow you to go wherever you need to go, and at the same time you allow them to go wherever they need to go. Nothing but beauty can come from that. And what I love about this song is that it's a song I initially released. It was only a 1-minute song. That's all it was. It was a 1-minute song I released on social media because I needed to let out this feeling. So I did, and people really were receptive to the song, to the point that I started thinking, maybe this needs to be a full song. And I know, and Lucky De Niro had written me going, I really love this song. And I said, you know what? I think you should do a verse on it. And so he did. And then as we're doing that, She Is Sam wrote this poetic piece that she felt was inspired by the song. And she posted it as a comment on, the first version of the song. And I love that piece so much. So I reached out to her and I said, could you record that and send that to me? And that's how she came onto the song. So it's one of those songs that was born from a place that it needed to happen, but at the same time, people loved it so much that I think the community gave birth to the song and are the reason why the song is now what it is today.
Wow. And we're about to hear that here in just a moment. I want to say for those who are just tuning in, though, either on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. We're excited to welcome back recording artist Stephen Voyce to our program. For our audience tuning in on the radio here in Mississippi, you guys are about to hear The Motion. For those tuning in on iHeartRadio and Amazon Music, you all cannot hear it here, but you can be able to find it, of course, on the platform as well. And we're going to let you guys know how to stay connected with Stephen as well. So, Stephen, now let's go back to social media for a moment, because as I mentioned, not only have you been able to share music there, but also, of course, going to keep us posted on things. But what I love, too, is that you really do have an engagement with your audience. Talk about that. What has that been like for you to have people literally around the world that are not just enjoying your music, but enjoying being able to have conversations with you about different topics?
Honestly, I feel nothing but gratitude for it. As a kid, I always wanted to be someone that people could reach, and I wanted my voice to mean something, no pun intended, but I wanted to be someone that mattered. And so now I'm in this position where people are listening to what I have to say, and I don't want to be one of those people that is just kind of talking to people but not listening to what they have to say back. I don't want to just talk at people. I want to engage in conversation. So I love when people, leave comments and I get to comment back, and then they, we get into a little correspondence and we just talk about whatever. I want people to realize that, like them, I'm just another person, and if I can achieve what I'm achieving, then honestly, anyone, whatever your goal is, you can find a way to make it happen to whichever capacity you want to take it to. But by being accessible to people, at least online, then I make myself real. And that's one thing I always want to remain, is real. I never want to become like this product that is, far away and can't be reached and is almost inhuman. I want people to know that there's a person behind this brand, and this person is a real person just like them.
To that point then, Stephen, I think one of the things that happens is, I know I can speak for myself personally. I have gotten in my own way, some of the time, because I think a lot of times when things are scary, I'm a person who pulls back. That's just kind of my part of my defense mechanism and my part of dealing with things. What do you do when things get scary? How do you kind of deal with those things?
When things get scary, honestly, I always take a moment to absorb it. I think it's really important to acknowledge that you're in a state of fear, and to accept that you're in this place, and to ask yourself why you're in that place. Because I feel like a lot of the times whenever we get triggered by whatever it is, we tend to, like you said, is to run away and to push it away. But then we don't really learn from it. So I lean into it, and I ask myself, why am I here? And it's only by taking those often very uncomfortable steps that I'm able to truly see myself and then start to find a way forward. So I lean into fear. I ask myself, why am I reluctant to do this thing right now? And it could end up being like, oh, maybe I'm just feeling a little insecure about this thing right here, or wherever the case is. And so I go, okay, so why are we feeling insecure? And you dive a little deeper, and you ask yourself those hard questions, and you usually come to the source. And once you face the source, you tend to start to pull, to chip away at not the cause, but the result of the source, right? So for me, That's what it is. It's leaning into it and allowing myself to feel whatever I have to feel, whether it's unpleasant or even pleasant at times.
Stephen, we're about to listen to The Motion, and so you kind of talked about how it kind of began. Talk to us about the messaging of this song.
Yeah.
I love the voicemail addition to it as well. I think that's a great part of it. It goes a lot with how we, unfortunately or fortunately, are able to communicate sometimes these days, right? I mean, that's through these voice messages. But what was it like for you to kind of see how the three different parts kind of merged together?
Yeah, I love that there are three different stories happening in there, and everyone is kind of saying the same thing, but from their perspective. I love where Lucky De Niro took it. Like, he just took it in a different direction, but at the end of his verse, he ties it back in beautifully, which I really loved. But I feel like She Is Sam and I, our parts really kind of speak to one another, where we're playing two sides of the same coin. On my end, I'm talking, and for me, the song is about dealing with, mental struggles, about seeing the world in a way that often enough, might not be the way everyone else sees it, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, and sometimes it pulls you into the fray, and it's just this constant motion of battling with yourself, and that's what the song is about for me. And so I'm confessing that sometimes I pull myself into these dark places, and I love that in hers she's saying, like, I'm tired of that motion, and I don't want to be in that darkness anymore. So it's one of for me it's a beautiful dichotomy in the sense that we're both pouring out our souls. We're both victims in our own stories, but we're also affecting one another. And it's a really important message for me because often enough people have different traumas in their life, and those traumas can cause traumas on the people that we're closest to, and their traumas can also cause traumas on us as well. So it's about acknowledging that we all have our pain, but to be apprehensive that everyone else is around us as well, and so we need to keep that in mind as we're dealing with ourselves. So it's about trying to find a healthy way of facing yourself. Yeah,
I love that. When I was listening to it, for me, Stephen, it was really like a cause and effect almost.
Yeah.
You're in the beginning kind of talking about why you were the way you were, but then the effect of it is what you could lose in the process, by being that way. I think that I love the way that kind of all comes together. Well, for those who have not had a chance to hear it, here is your opportunity. This is Stephen Voyce with The Motion. We'll be back with our final moments with Stephen right after this. Stay with us. That again was Stephen Voyce, of course, as we mentioned, featuring young De Niro as well as She Is Sam. We've been talking with Stephen today not only about his journey this year, but also what's been like for him to share his love of music with the world and see the response. We got that single through our friends at Amazon.com. You can get it through your favorite online retailer, though, definitely, and make sure you all leave a review. Let Stephen and the other artists know what you think about it. So, Stephen, one of my things I'm known for is, as we've already talked about what has been, I'm curious about what is to come. So what is next? What are you looking forward to next? Yeah.
So what I was going to say is the next song actually will be coming out soon. It's ready to go. We're just working on the music video concept, but it should be out by, I'd say, December. It's called Scream, and it's an homage to Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson's song of the same name, Scream. So yeah. It's same vein, same kind of story behind the music. So I'm excited for people to hear that song. So once it's ready for pre-marketing, you'll be the first, my friend, to get it.
Awesome, I love that. We love that around here. We appreciate it for sure, and I love that song too. That video is iconic. That's going to be really exciting. So do you find, to that point, that brings up another question then, because I mean that's something big. I mean, do you find that pushing yourself that way, Stephen, is one of the things that keeps the musical journey and the experience of creating exciting for you?
Absolutely. I love being a part of every single process, like all parts of the process of the creativity, from writing to the producing of the music, all the way to the music video, from sometimes not just creating the concept, but actually filming it. I love getting my hands dirty. So I love all aspects of creativity. Like I love filming. I love filming, film. Is it called cinematography? I love that as well. So kind of when you get to create a concept and see it fully fulfilled in all ways, that's a beautiful thing. From the music to the visuals, it's a wonderful thing. So I love pushing those boundaries and just seeing what else I can do. And I take that same mindset with everything I do in my life. When it comes to working out at the gym, I'm always constantly challenging myself, doing things like I couldn't do yesterday. I'll try and do them today until I can get them. But that's just a part of the way my brain is, and I think it keeps everything exciting. Because the last thing I ever want to do is get bored in the things I love to do.
Yeah, it's funny hearing you say that. I remember seeing the story of you in the gym recently, and you were, it was a challenge that you were doing. You said it's way harder than it looks. I think such is life, right? And I mean, I think that's just the way it is. But to keep going, to keep pursuing it for sure. So, Stephen, last thing, what advice would you give? I'm sure artists ask you, but what advice would you give to artists out there about once they've realized what their thing is, pursuing that thing and not letting go of it?
I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again. It's like it's learning to get out of your own way. A lot of the times we're the ones in our own way, and it's a fear. And sometimes, funny enough, and I say it funny enough, it's not funny, but we fear the success. We fear what will happen if we actually succeed in the thing we're trying to do, because then it's real. And then suddenly it's no longer just an idea, but it's tangible and it's in your hands. And then you're worried about, what if I let that go? What if I fumble the ball or whatever? But you have to learn how to get out of your own way, because the fear of what is and what isn't is only going to stop you from actually doing what will actually happen. So learn how to get out of your own way. Learn how to face that fear, like I was saying before. Learn how to ask yourself why you're afraid. Learn how to dive deep and ask yourself those hard questions. Take a look in the mirror and see where that's the source of this fear, which might be, based on trauma. Ask yourself where that's coming from, and then deal with that. Learn how to not be afraid to deal with that. Learn how to not be afraid to ask for help. I think those go a long way in helping you take the next steps in your journey.
Yes. Such a great point, such a great lesson. Again, everyone, Stephen Voyce has been our guest. Great conversation with you, Stephen, as always. Again, make sure you guys pick up the new single, The Motion. Again, we got it through our friends at Amazon.com. You can get it through your favorite online retailer. And, Stephen, how can our audience stay connected with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Instagram is where you'll learn everything there is to know about me. I guess that's I'm the most active. So Instagram.com/Stephen Voyce, that's StephenVoyce, and on my website, but you can find that in the links of my Instagram. So just go to my Instagram and you'll find everything.
All right. Stephen, again, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to having you back again soon.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, glad to do it, man. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live, and let's go make today amazing. Take care.